Welcome to another of our Wednesday yachting luncheons. It's great to be here, and when we look out the windows, it's always beautiful, but today we put a cherry on top of the cake. Look at that. How else would you want to spend your luncheon looking out these beautiful windows? Right off the bat, it's my great pleasure to introduce the Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club, a longtime buddy, a great servant of the community, our Commodore Paul Heineken.
Pam and I are on stage today, so you're going to hear a lot of me, so I'm going to say, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Paul. Points for brevity and class, both. Let's see. We have an amazing assortment of great speakers coming up this year. We're booked way into June already. It's very striking that the St. Francis Yacht Club has so many Olympians as members. So you're all going to get a chance to hear from them. Starting in June, you'll hear from Luke Muller, who is a Finn sailor. This will be the last Olympics for the Finn coming up. And so he's a member of the U.S. Olympic sailing team and still striving for an Olympic berth in 2020. He'll use a method that has been pretty savvy. He's got the previous bronze medalist, Caleb Payne, as his training partner. And the two of them are incredibly, incredibly close buddies on shore and roommates. And out there, they are incredibly tough competitors. And we've found that to be an incredibly good methodology. It's the same way Caleb got good by sailing against Zach Rayleigh. So he'll be here in June. In May, we'll get to hear from Bill Lynn. He's the managing director of the Herreshoff Museum and the Classic Yacht Owners Association, of which my yacht youngster is a member. In April, we'll get to hear from, you wanted to know what makes planes, boats, and golf balls go faster, why winglets work. So Stanford professor and former chair of the Stanford Engineering Department, Channing Robertson, will be here to tell us all about that. The White House calligrapher, who's got to talk from sea to shining White House, Rick Paulus will be here in April. Patrick Hunt, the famous Stanford historian, will tell us all about nautical tactical surprises of Hannibal and the beginnings of biological warfare. In March 20th, mark this one down, what was St. Francis Yacht Club like in the 50s? Someone who would know, Dewey Hines, will be here to talk all about it on March the 20th. Be great. Dewey is incredibly knowledgeable, steward of our history in the Yacht Club, really. Ron Young, spelled with an E and not an O, he'll be here. He's a distinguished professor of engineering in Berkeley to talk all about ocean wave energy extraction. We want to pay attention to all kinds of alternative energies. He's very familiar with those. Caleb Payne, bronze medalist, the only medalist from America in the last Olympics, will be here on March the 6th. February 27, Bill Wells will be here to talk a yachting history of the California Delta. Wait, hold for a second, here we go. On the 20th of February, Gordon Sullivan, four-star general, will be here to talk about, you guessed it, how is our national security being protected from climate change? The government is recognizing there are very serious issues involved with climate change that have to do with national security. Dominic Rollier will be here in February. You don't need a weatherman. Globalizing offshore wind. They're the guys who are building towers, his company, as tall as the Golden Gate Bridge that float. They're huge windmills. I mentioned last time that they look like they're going slowly, but the wings are so long, they're going the speed of sound. The tip vortexes are going the speed of sound. February 6th, Paige Rayleigh, two-time Olympian. Can she get there a third time? January 30th, Bill Christ, we're talking about the St. Francis Sailing Foundation. Holy cow. A little bit now about our speakers today. Moment. I shouldn't really refer to this because I've known our speakers for like 30, 40 years. Pam first came into view as a young kid, age 4, sailing on her parents' Cal 20. Who remembers Cal 20 days? I raced against them in those days on Jerry Leth and Betsy's Leth Cal 20. And she remembers being kind of surprised they would get so close to the shoreline in the boat and wondering about that. At age 16, while sailing a laser, her dad said to her, "You can sail all you want in the bay, but you can't go outside the gate." One day while he was driving home from San Francisco to Marina, looked out there, looked at the laser, stared at it as it was going under the bridge. She got home and he was upset. He was frightened mad. "You can't do that. You can't go out there." But our girl Pam was not to be stopped. Exactly. At age 21, she was incredibly excited to get the news that there would be a women's 470 class in the 88 Olympics. In the 88 Olympic trials, she took fourth, and the people who won it went on to win in Busan. In 89, she and J.J. Iser teamed up for, what was their slogan? Who remembers it? No pain, no Spain. No pain, no Spain. My wife still has sleeping shirts that say "No pain, no Spain" on them. In 92, yes, long T-shirts. Anyway, in 92, she and JJ won the Worlds leading up to the Barcelona Olympics. That's usually an amazing sign. And they went on to win a bronze medal there. Since that time, she's been a long-time steward of yachting and especially youth interest in our community and has served in multiple committees and helped out. Guess what? Paul Heineken, he's done similarly incredible long background. Started sailing in New Jersey near Gary Jobson's hometown at age 10. Sailed his whole life, went to the 1968 Olympic trials, sailing what boat? What's the toughest, hardest boat? And if you win it, you're considered to be the greatest sailor in the world, the Finn. So he goes there to sail in the Finn trials. Another one of our members sailed in those trials, Ed the Man Bennett. Goes to Princeton, gets a nice degree there. I've heard of that place. Goes to Harvard. I've heard of that place too. Got his medical degree there. Comes to California, starts sailing. Has a partner named Ron Young. Way back in the 80s, we shared a boat together. Fell in love with their family, and he's done an incredible service to the yachting community by not only bringing his wife Janet to our club all the time. Hand up for Janet, wonderful wife. He and she doctors. But they've also raised two incredibly great, wonderful people who, by the way, happen to be world champions. So it is with incredibly great pleasure that I introduce or bring up to the stage two people who have served our community for decades. And now, as she a board member and he the Commodore, they're going to tell us all about what's in store for the club in 2019. Pam Healy and Paul Heineken, welcome to the stage.
Is it on? Okay. I know, I'm ready? Okay. I thought I'd start out with talking about the leadership of the St. Francis Yacht Club Youth Program, looking ahead to 2019. What sets apart the youth program here at St. Francis is the incredible, enthusiastic leadership of our sailing director, Brent Harrell, and head coach, Adam Corpus-Lawn. These two people are approachable and open to input and ideas and truly want the program to be the best it can be in very challenging sailing conditions. We have a great committee of parents that serve to offer suggestions and support without promoting their own agenda or their specific child. They are on the committee for the right reasons. Of course, we are lucky to have our committee chair be the ultra cool Commodore Livingston. He sets the tone to encourage us to think out of the box, have open, free-form discussions, thank you, and brainstorm. There is no hierarchy. We are all equals and feel valued. He makes leadership fun and sets a very high bar. Kimball has the benefit of experience and history and is able to look in the rearview mirror and know firsthand how many great sailors have come from our club. Russ Silvestri, Paul Kayard, John Bertrand, John Kostucky, Will Bayless, and Craig Healy. All Olympians, all world champions. Kimball is hungry and determined to put Area G back on the map. He is involved in every which way to make this happen, following the direction from U.S. Sailing at the regional level politically and working with the development of FAST. His writing and promotion of the sport, his mentorship makes things happen for our kids. He is the definition of a friendly, collaborative leader, and we are lucky to have him. Plus, he simply writes the best and most entertaining committee minutes ever. Kimball had us take an honest look at our program a while back and acknowledged that we needed to do better. We wanted our kids to be lifelong sailors, lovers of the water, and play on boats. Those of us in this room know sailing can change lives for the better. The skills one learns from the sport are invaluable. Being on time, being safe, being ready to learn, being a custodian of the environment, we know are all skills that are transferable to other areas of your life. We wanted to make sure we were building competent watermen and waterwomen, as Commodore Kyriakis emphasized during his Commodore year. The kids that have that extra fire in their belly for competition also needed help getting there to the next level. We needed to do a better job supporting them and helping them map out and carve a competition path. Oops. Our program is one of the most inclusive and diverse sailing programs around. It's something we can all be proud of. We have over 650 kids in our program last year, equal in gender. We work with the local YMCA and outreach to the Mission Dolores Academy and have planted the sailing bug in many SF youth. The St. Francis Yacht Club is committed to sharing our love of the sport with others less fortunate. This is a value that our membership is committed to through their generosity of the St. Francis Sailing Foundation. So we started with the basics. Let's get kids just playing on boats, exploring our beautiful bay, asking members to volunteer and mentor. Taking kids sailing on a variety of boats, cruising and racing, and getting them to branch out. We have free sail Fridays, and many member volunteers offer to help. We want the kids to be as proficient and as comfortable as they can because this area is about to explode. FAST is already inspiring the next generation of sailors. There's quite a buzz. For those of you that are unfamiliar with FAST, it stands for the Facilities of Advanced Sailing Technology. I am on the committee, and it has been a labor of love, and at times, the run-up of FAST has been a little slow-moving for my taste, but change takes time. Malcolm Page, the U.S. sailing director and two-time Olympic medalist, has moved out here to the Bay Area with his growing family. There is now more West Coast focus, and the attention is something that we are all thrilled about. He is also joining the St. Francis Yacht Club. U.S. Sailing is taking the long view with eyes focused on 2028, and our kids are going to be rubbing shoulders with the very best. Additionally, we are also very focused on building and strengthening the relationship between sailing students in the Treasure Island Sailing Center program and members of the U.S. sailing team. The opportunity for these local kids to spend time observing and learning from top athletes is unparalleled and is going to happen right here. One can only begin to imagine the positive impact this will have. What we are doing here at the club is focusing on developmental classes that work in our venue, the NACRA 15 and kiting. We are very proud to have several of our kids in the Olympic Development Program. Daniela Moroz, our Rockstar World Champion female kiter, and our NACRA 15 team of Jack Sutter and Charlotte Versavel, who are currently ranked third in the United States. Let's start with foiling. Kimball had us put together a subcommittee to explore teaching foiling to the juniors this spring. I am personally a big proponent of not putting limitations on kids and letting them get out of their comfort zone in a safe environment. We will begin by towing the kids with a tow rope behind them on a rib on a foiling SUP right off the beach here at Chrissy. Once they advance, they can drop the tow rope and ride the boat's wake. Both girls and boys can become equally adept at learning this skill. After they master the foil, they can quickly transition to full racing equipment. It's pretty cool to think that we might launch kids straight to kiting, bypassing the FJ, or as Commodore Heineken calls it, a Studebaker. It's definitely a new world, but one we are embracing. The next cool boat we are playing around with right now is the UFO. We have one here on loan and are in the beta stages of teaching our sailors how to fly one out on the water. You will see it this spring, so keep a lookout and watch it fly by the club. The NACRA 15 class has really taken off thanks to the support of the St. Francis Sailing Foundation and our coaching staff. This spring, we will have our third NACRA 15 clinic here, March 16th and 17th, coached by member Olympian Helena Scott, preceding the U.S. Sailing Youth World Qualifiers March 22 and 24. We do have a hometown favorite, and the competition is very steep, so please come down and cheer them on. We expect to have between 8 to 11 boats here flying around, making the bay look like a bathtub. You are bound to meet some pretty exceptional sailors and possibly a future Olympian. For me personally, it's really interesting to be out on the water in a rib and watch these young co-ed teams develop, support one another, and grow their skills together as equals. I'm so glad the club has embraced this class and supports it. In July, we will be hosting the C420 North Americans and expect upwards of 90 boats. We expect to have up to 8 teams competing from the club and racing under the burgee. As you may have heard, we now have shifted the focus in the spring from formal high school sailing to after-school sailing in C420s on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, J22s on Thursdays, and on Fridays we have free sailing. We will still support the teams that want to compete in high school sailing in the spring, but they need to be independent, manage the scheduling, coaching, and setting up of the boats on their own. This is something that warms my heart personally, which I have strongly voiced in committee meetings. I think the skills that sailing teaches our youth have been watered down by well-intentioned parents and coaches in overstructured programs. So much of being a complete and total sailor is being responsible for your equipment and for yourself, learning how to problem solve, cope, figure things out, and just plain deal. Something magical happened this spring. You'll never believe it, but the kids went to their high school regattas without their coaches. They had to deal with scheduling, take responsibility for communicating with one another, and suffer the consequences of forgetting a few things. And guess what? They did just fine. Funny what can happen when we get out of their way. In September, when the men are up at Stag, the main station turns into a girl fest. We have the Women's J22 program and the Ultra Cool Girls High Performance Clinic. As leaders in yachting, the St. Francis Yacht Club is committed to gender parity. We know the low-hanging fruit in terms of building lifelong sailors includes supporting women to be comfortable on the water, advance their skills, and feel supported. It's a win-win. As a director, I am committed and passionate about building solid programming for women here at the club. Last year was the first time we gave this out-of-the-box unique clinic a try, and it was beyond successful. U.S. Sailing helped promote it nationwide. We had our world champion 505 team of Mike Martin and Adam Lowry alternate by taking girls out for the high performance ride of their life. We had Joel Menard take girls out on his 29er. We had the women's 470 Perfect Vision 2020 team take girls out on their Olympic class 470. And our 2018 Junior Yachtswoman of the Year, Chloe Holder, take interested sailors out on her I-420. Everyone was grinning ear to ear and loved the speed. We had participants as far away as Hawaii, Idaho, Southern California, and Florida. We rotated everyone in and out of boats, pairing them up with different partners. We did yoga, talked about goals, took lots and lots of photos, and made friends. I am happy to say we can look forward to having this clinic again in the fall, so please come down and watch or volunteer. In summary, I'd like to mention how excited I am to be a part of the junior committee. Because of the partnership between the youth directors, the leadership, and Kimball's bold eyes forward and his killer minutes, the energy level is high and positive. For those of you listening out in Facebook land, don't be afraid to take a look at your youth program and make sure you are on the path to building lifelong sailors, watermen and waterwomen, as Commodore Heineken would say. Don't be afraid to be creative, be bold, and do something unconventional. As long as the kids are happy and want to be out on the water messing around in boats, you're on the right track. Thank you.
Pam, that was great, and it's so good to see how the whole junior program is evolving from just FJ sailing. And I was chair of junior committee about a decade ago, and it was nothing like what we're doing now. So I wanted to start this with the fact that your club leadership is not unfamiliar with high-performance boats. So the Commodore supports it all the way, and the chairman of the board supports it all the way. So that's the way we would like to go. The lucky skipper in both of those is my daughter. So now I'm going to go by our programs this year and not by the calendar in particular. And the programs are really dominated this spring by match racing. And I have Bruce and Nicole here to keep me in line here. They supplied some of the information and an incredible amount of energy. Yeah, so go ahead, wave. Do you want them, Tom? Okay. And the energy and organization to get a very full program going this spring. First, we've got a California Dreamin' series with the first of 3 events around the state. 8 teams, mostly West Coast. The other 2 clubs are San Diego and Long Beach. And it's basically a summer-long program. And as was listed here, Russell Long is going to be one of the sailors this year. So Bruce just threw that in his notes. But Russell was in my junior program at Royal Bermuda Yacht Club 50 years ago. And 1969, when men landed on the moon, he was a little 12-year-old, went on to sail a 12-meter boat and then break the world sailing speed record for a while. So he's going to come out back to his roots and do some match racing here. I thought that's really cool. Nicole, of course, is defending champion, and she'll be sailing. But we expect nothing less. Then we're the San Francisco Cup. Did I? Okay, so this is the San Francisco Cup team a couple years ago. And that's after they reorganized the whole event such that a women's boat and a kids' boat go along with the open boat. And that'll be at the end of March and should be a really fun event. San Francisco Yacht Club is hosting it this year. We're in the negotiations right now. The open boat will be J105s. And so we just want everybody to enjoy the event and the parties associated with it and bring the cup back home where it belongs. The much bigger event is the Nations Cup, which is a world sailing organized event, which Nicole won a couple of years ago in Vladivostok, Russia. And it has been in negotiation to come here. It was supposed to be last fall, is now here in the spring because it was tough arranging this thing. And Bruce did an outstanding job. The fun part is there are going to be 2 divisions, a women's division and an open division, 10 teams in each. Bruce is planning on 2 racing venues right out in front because we have to get a lot of races in over the 3-day event. And it will bring people and hopefully some of their consuls from representing all of these countries down to the club. It should be a really fun time to hang around the bar. And also, Bruce is looking for some housing hosts. So if you'd like an international team to be spending some time with you in early April, I think it's a great time to learn about it. My wife, with her Estonian grandfather, is recruiting the Estonian team to our house. So hopefully they speak English. But we're looking forward, and I think a lot of people in the room might have a good time if you could host a team. It's Australia, Brazil, Estonia, Finland, France, Great Britain, Italy, Japan, New Zealand, Republic of South Africa, Russia, Sweden, and maybe even the Brialt Stones representing the U.S. So that's a wonderful opportunity, I think, here at the club, and that's April 10 to 14. So later on in the spring, we're going to be running the U.S. Match Racing Qualifier, and in October, the U.S. Match Racing Championships. So a very big year for match racing at the club. What slide are we on? We're still on Nations Cup. Yep, that's where we should have been. But if any of you would like to take a crash course in becoming an umpire, I'm sure you could find a job around here with all the match racing that's happening this spring. Joke. Okay. Why hang out and watch match racing? It's because there are going to be multiple races at one time. And one can think of match racing as a parade, but there's all this activity before the start, and there are multiple races happening at once. So if one turns into a parade, you get to look at the next start. And so it's a really fun time to see how much boat interaction can happen in a short period of time, and hopefully no collisions. Another thing this spring is going to be the women's Learn to Sail, Get Your Feet Wet programs, which Pam started. And I think the photo is very appropriate because there's Olympian Healy with some ladies with some very big grins who've had a great time on the bay. And with that, I think, yeah, they can use our J22 fleet very effectively. It's a nice cross between a dinghy, which is responsive, and a big keel boat, which is far less so. So it's a really good training platform. And I'd like to reflect on the J22 program for just a moment. I guess 9 years ago, about a decade ago, through the generous donations of members of the club, through the Sailing Foundation, the boats were purchased, and the club has taken them over, basically leasing them back to do all the maintenance and upkeep. And we now have a really good team of people working on the boats. Greg Marr is the chair in the ERC, and Andre and Chase down on the docks are working on them. We've done some really nice little upgrades to them. And it's a very effective way to get a lot of people out sailing. When they were first purchased, they were kind of treated like pieces of china that could only be used for the racing events. And since then, we've learned they have a much broader appeal and much wider usefulness to the club. So they're spending a lot more time in the water than they used to, and are benefiting a lot more club members. We would, of course, like to get 3 more of them so that we could do 3-on-3 team racing with much bigger numbers of teams. And if you'd like to know more about that, just talk to Bruce. But that's something that's definitely on our horizon. I'll very briefly mention the Challenges program, because Russ gave a real, so that's the slide that goes with, we love our J22 fleet. The Challenges program is run by Russ Silvestri very successfully last year. And this is the winning Morgan Cup team back at Newport, Rhode Island. And that's essentially the U.S. Team Racing Championship. It was sponsored by Bruce Smith last year, who kind of jumped in and said, well, if big boat sailing is kind of old and passé, where we get to take out our 10 crew members and have a good time, why don't I just sponsor a bunch of team racers, and I'll go out and have a good time and feel like I'm a kid again with all of these guys sailing. And so that worked really nicely, and Russ would like to continue this year finding some sponsors for some of these traveling events, for this sort of modern version of how to keep a team of young athletes together sailing. So that was great, and we're going to see more of that this year. I think last year the whole Challenges, I think 300 people participated, and we're going to try to do more than that, and we're going to try to get kids involved. So as Pam's junior group is growing up, like an event in New York, the Cornerstone Cup, which is between just the 5 top clubs in the world: Royal Thames, Royal Yacht Squadron, New York, us. I'm forgetting someone. Only 4 teams. Kimball's giving me but we'd like to get a kid on each of the boats, and the skipper's got to be 40. The crew has to average 35. And it's supposed to have a mixed gender. So I think our ideal boat is going to be one of our hotshot skippers, sort of me or Ray Lotto in the middle of the boat pulling on a main sheet, and then we can put a good-looking woman and a young kid in front of us, and we might average 35 years old. So something like that. So that would be a fun way to approach this. So that's the challenges thing this year. And I got one too far ahead. But I have to put in my plug for the auction, the St. Francis Sailing Foundation auction that's coming up in mid-March. Please come and support our junior sailors and all of these wonderful things they're doing that Pam mentioned, but also the outreach programs that we participate in. And I kind of saved the biggest, funnest new event here, the Sail GP. What Russell Coots has put together following the last unsuccessful Ellison team in Bermuda, they had all these 50-foot high-performance catamarans around, and so they retrofitted them so they'd all be one design, take out all the bicycle pedals and such things so that they're, and give them some extra horsepower so they can actually maneuver, so they can store power aboard, and have hydrofoiling catamarans going out here at 45 knots or so for a weekend in May. Very much like the America's Cup, but an even smaller course. So the weather mark will be right up here off the beach, and the starting line will be down off Pier 39 or something like that. And we're going to have huge party here east of the club at a tent on the beach. We're going to provide some support here at the club, but not that much, so that it's for the members. There'll be plenty of space here to enjoy a scene very reminiscent of what the America's Cup did. And there are going to be 6 teams, 6 countries. All the kids, all the sailors are from that country. This is the American team, 5 guys running a 50-foot foiling catamaran, and 3 of them are our members, which is very, very cool. Yeah. So, we've got Riley Gibbs, who had an NACRA program going. We'll probably still go back to it. He's an incredibly talented young sailor from Southern California who's been living up here. Last year, well, a year and a half ago, on the Delta Ditch Run, he and my son Johnny decided to sail from Richmond to Stockton on their foiling kites in tandem. And they did it in 2 hours and 13 minutes. I couldn't keep up with 200 horsepower in a rib. And so that's Riley's very talented young sailor. Then Hans Henken, who has a Stanford kid. His sister was in the back of the boat when you saw the picture of Helena Scutt. That's Paris Henken, who was driving the Olympic 49er FX boat. Her brother is a kid actually I sailed 29ers against back then, and he's a 49er Olympic wannabe and very talented sailor on this boat. And last is Dan Morris, who's a Richmond kid who also had a 49er Olympic campaign going, is becoming a young professional sailor. So these guys are the best in the world right out here with this wonderful new event. So this is what the boat looks like off their website in graphic, and this is what it looks like when it's practicing off New Zealand. And so as long as we're flying high and we're talking about the season here at the Yacht Club, we can't forget the other sport we've invented. And these guys are sailing fast, sailing high, and actually flying high. So this we can do every other Thursday night starting in April. So come on down. That's really what we have planned this spring. Oh, and I have one more slide. Don't forget to sign up for the Commodore's cruise. That is until August, but it's going to be a fun time in Fiji, and we're actually having a little party tonight to talk about that. So there's plenty to do down here at the club. You can sit here, you can get out on the water, and join in. So that's it for me. Ron?
Welcome all to our Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, live from the St. Francis Yacht Club. Our guests today and speakers are ladies first, Pam Healy, Olympic bronze medalist and director of the St. Francis Yacht Club, and one of the sparks behind the community outreach programs at our club, and Paul Heineken, Commodore of our yacht club. Pardon me for a second. So, first to Pam. When you think about about 2019, there's so much going on. We have what is in fact, it is an actual fact, the most active racing
Youth World qualifiers that are going to be here at the end of March. We have probably 3 local teams they're all members of this club, and the top team right now, they're ranked officially number 3 in the country, but I think because of the way the aging up is happening, they're ranked 2nd in the country. And so if they do really well at this event and win, they can represent the United States at the Youth Worlds, which in October, which will be in Poland. So please come down and watch. These boats go so fast. Kimball and I are out on the water with them all the time. And if you look down in the boat to look for your radio, they're gone. They're just like bugs on the water. And like I said, they make the bay look like a bathtub. So that's the regatta that I'm the most excited about for the kids.
Paul, with our busy schedule, what single event excites you the most?
Oh, it's impossible.
That's why I'm asking the question. One
Well,
event.
I'll go back to tradition. The race I've been doing for, 25, 30 years is the San Francisco Bay Classic, where the kites and windsurfers go out around the South Tower of the Golden Gate Bridge twice, then cross the bay 10 times on their way to Berkeley, and then sail all the way back. And it's the oldest continuous running long-distance race for windsurfers in the world, and now kites. And it's chaos. And one year they had to slow down under the gate because of the humpback whales who were in the way. And so we really want to have live tracking this year on all of our kite races. So we can have on these screens here color-coded tracks so people can see where everyone is on the bay and follow the races. In the long-distance race, it's a matter of safety and fun. So that race is just my race. That always comes first. But this LGP is going to be awesome.
So staying with Paul, you've raised 2 children, Erica and Johnny, each of whom become world champions. If you look back over raising them, give me an activity that you think was incredibly important in racing, winners.
Well, I think a lot of what Pam mentioned, and I have had a talk I've given on this. Go out and have fun. Be confident on the water. Don't push kids to race when they're not ready. When they are ready, allow them to progress at their speed, and then a subset of them will be competitive. Just so happened both my kids were, and then they charge ahead, get better coaching, and learn the spice. They learn to travel. They learn some of the good things that sets the hook and keeps them going. So have fun, don't push.
One thing that we did this year that was so simple is you saw the slide of the girls at the father-daughter dance playing in the Opti, and Kevin Growney decorated
So
it
cool.
with satin. And then I also rigged up a laser over Labor Day weekend, and during the cocktail hour in the lanai, I set up a laser on the lawn, and I rigged it up so that the kids wouldn't hurt themselves. And I had to get kids off the boat. There were so many of them. And then I would teach them how to hike out and make the boat heel over. So the cool thing about that is that we decided we would take some of the older lasers that are up at Tinsley, and the toilers are going to build an interactive playground for the kids. So
cool.
Besides playing on the play structure, they're going to play in boats, and we're going to rig up lines so they can, pull through the ratchet blocks and learn how to use a cleat and just be on boats playing around.
Tell me a funny story from the community outreach program. Kids who don't know anything about sailing, get your feet wet. Tell me a funny story about it.
It always happens that the child that is the most afraid to get out on the water doesn't have any swimming experience, really. They're water safe. They always are the ones that end up leaning over the side of the boat, putting their hand in the water, getting so excited about seeing a pelican or, watching a ferry go by. That's what I think it's always that kid that is the most fearful that ends up being the one that we have to say, it's time to go, time to go home. It's really
Talk
cool.
about going straight to, in the junior sailing activities, going straight to boards, skipping the slower boats and going straight to boards.
Well, I think this is the perfect venue for it because the kids see it all the time, and we have such great role models in the Heinekens and then also with Daniela. So there are children that are 11 years old that are foiling in China right now, and we just thought as a committee we should be doing that too. And so what are we afraid of? So we broke it down into baby steps, and we're going to teach the little kids how to foil this summer, and then this spring by towing them, and then we won't be launching them and foiling kites off of Chrissy Field. We're going to encourage them to go someplace where it's a little bit warmer, a little bit safer, but we're going to give them that taste. And I don't see, since the sport is moving in that direction, I don't see why they need to sit in FJs facing backwards for 8 years. Like, why make that be a stepping stone? We're pretty committed to that.
Paul, we've got this incredibly busy activity. What worries you about 2019 as Commodore?
Earthquakes, fires, If we have neither of those two things, I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
What worries you about being Commodore? What are you concerned about?
It's just a very busy job right now. So getting the beginning of the year going, I think, is the challenge. And we have so many talented people in the club that I just have to call them up, not be shy. So that's my major barrier, is to just use the talent that we have.
To give other people a sense, what % of your January kind of working time hours do you think you're spending being Commodore?
It's half the full-time job right now, because you're here many evenings of the week, and then you're, dealing with stuff all day long. So it's something like that. I wouldn't want to have my old full-time job back while I'm doing this.
Pam, same question to you. What % of your time are you spending thinking about yacht club stuff?
I think about it all the time, and I really, because I'm in the neat position where I'm on the membership committee and I interview most of the juniors, and then I'm on the junior committee, I have a lot of overlap there, and so and also being as a liaison to the St. Francis Sailing Foundation and being a director, I have ideas for programs that I want to get started up, and then I have the attention of the flag officers to help me support my program. So for me, I don't work, so for me, I think about it all the time. And I talk to Paul Heineken almost every morning before 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Pam is my absolute best friend, and you cannot believe the influence she's had on the board, doing really good, cool stuff that was not done before she was there. It's really been great what programs we've developed in a short period of time.
Right, absolutely. Her service didn't stop with winning a bronze medal back in '92. We have a question from Bruce Monroe. Bruce.
Yes, thanks, Ron. Commodore, that is quite an ambitious and high-tech super sailing season you've described for us coming up. I'm looking forward to seeing many of the events. However, for those of us who are still interested in low-tech, old-fashioned keelboat sailing, I have two questions for you. Number one, are we going to have an intra-club regatta, and will the Commodore be sailing in it?
That's an easy one to answer. I have an old low-tech keelboat, Hathor, down on the dock, recently polished for the first time in forever for my
Will we
Commodore
recognize
year.
it, Paul?
I don't know. And yes, she will be sailing in the intra-club. And also part of the reason to have it down here is so we can use it for some of these Learn to Sail programs, both for the Kids Free Sail Friday and for the women's Get Your Feet Wet program. So there will still be keelboats on the bay. We know that. And many, many yacht club members will be sailing their boats in both the interclub and the keelboat races that we run. It starts with Spring One Design, beginning of March. So yeah, all those things are still on the calendar.
Pam, kiting in the Olympics. Give us the news.
I know Daniela's counting the days. When she was at the junior awards dinner the other night, she told me 2,183 days, Pam. So I know she's really excited about it.
And she's 16 now, isn't she?
She's 18.
18.
So she has her eyes set on that. I think the event will be a team event, so the competition's developing, but I know I'm really excited for her, and I know that it's going to be a spectator event to draw in larger crowds. So I think we're really lucky to have maybe Riley and Daniela participating. You can't, they have to qualify, but it looks like the club has a shot of representation at the 2024 games in
So
France.
Paul, talk about, you and I remember, 15, 18 years ago, being here at the bar when kiting was just happening out in front of the club and saying, we could have races. We could have closed course races. So tell everybody the evolution from this being an entertaining acrobatic sport to actually, a starting line. Can you imagine a starting line? Remember those early discussions? How could you have a starting line with kites flying around?
This is another whole topic, Ron.
Just give us a short
but
couple of...
The short story is that we had these long distance races, like I mentioned, and and the kite said, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to sail to Berkeley. Then they tried sailing home, and they couldn't get there from here.
Couldn't go up breeze.
Yeah, I couldn't go up the breeze, and if it changed from an ebb to a flood, we were picking them up out of the water. So they started putting bigger fins on their boards and evolving them. And then one day, Chip Wasson said, we can race around the course. So let's schedule it on an ebb tide, and let's put bigger fins on our surfboards. And they did it. And in 2009, probably 2 years after they started doing that, we had the first world championship here at the club. And we had like 65 competitors, and Chip finished second. And then it was... They're literally off to the races with evolution of the boards, the fins, the kites. They're learning how to work at the starting line and to not interact with each other. And now it's like another sailboat race.
So Pam, you're introducing, as we all know, Paige Raley will be here in a couple of weeks, and you'll be introducing Paige, and we've been introducing other Olympians. We sailed with the whole U.S. Olympic team on IODs in a Wednesday night race. What's it like having literally the top of the sport playing with kids who basically just learned what a sailboat is?
Well, I know that when Helena came to meet with the kids and when Paige came last year, they love rubbing shoulders with them and inspiring them, and you can see that they remember what it was like to be, afraid and unsure and committing to their goals and not being afraid to say, I want to be you someday. I want to go to the Olympics. So they really pull that out of the little kids, and they love spending time with them, and I just think they understand their role as an Olympian is automatically to give back. It's something that's expected of you, and they're wired for it. And so I'm really proud of them, all the Olympians that come back here and visit the club, and how anytime I ask any of them to do anything, they say, yes, how can I do more? How can I help? Because they know it's part of the commitment of giving back.
So Paul, we now have 27. How many committees we have in the club these days? It keeps changing. About 27-ish?
More.
Are we keeping track of volunteer hours? Do we have a metric of that? And is that something that you have some sense of? Does it feel to you like there's more volunteer hours in an active year than in a non-active year?
Everyone is seeing their own little snippet of what they're involved in at the time. So I can't make generalizations other than that we've never looked at a more active sailing season. And socially, things are great, and Tinsley, things are looking up, and so I can't see a downturn anywhere. And the club's successful based on the membership involvement. So we want everybody to pitch in because that's when it's more fun. So I can't answer with a number, but we're busy.
So tell me a scary story about raising kids on the water, Paul. you and I remember seeing little Johnny pick up his sail when he didn't weigh as much as
Well,
50
when
pounds.
I just met with the Coast Guard people who are planning the big Coast Guard Foundation plan here, and I thank them up and down because they saved my fanny, and it's indirectly related to my pregnant wife. As in March, I break off a fin on the back of my windsurfer in a 5-knot ebb going out the Golden Gate in huge springtime swells, and nobody around, and I was able to flag down be seen by a blue and gold. So he called the coasties out to come get me. So I'm thinking, it's kind of cold water and it's March, and I have a pregnant wife and no life insurance, and what am I doing out here? So the one for my kid is Johnny, our 29er, the one that was in the photo there, went out the gate one time in a big ebb tide, and the coasties pulled it in and broke it all up, and we put it back together again, and it's over here in the yard still being sailed by those kids. So that was, and they had left from San Francisco Yacht Club in a big ebb, and they just went shooting out the gate. So yeah, it's nice to know where they are, and actually, GPS, phones, VHFs are all good things to have.
Pam, same thing. Scary moment.
For me, I was rescued by the Coast Guard once when I was probably about 19 years old, and I was racing a laser on the circle, and I got really tired, and I kept capsizing, and no one was keeping an eye on me, and I was just I couldn't get the boat up anymore. So the Coast Guard came and grabbed me out of my boat. I think they towed the boat upside down. I don't know how they did that, but I was young, and they took all my clothes off and threw me down below in this room that was heated, and I was mortified. I'll never forget it.
They were helping, right, Pam?
That was more terrifying than not being able to get my boat upright. I hadn't thought about that in a while. Thanks.
We know they had good intentions, Pam.
Yeah, I know they had to get all my wet clothes off, but I was young, and it was a bad memory.
So, Paul, how much of your yacht club mental energy is spent on the finances and on the sort of like things that have nothing to do literally with the operation of sailing and playing on boats?
98%. Yeah, the one sailing thing I've accomplished this year is enticing Chris Perkins to sail in the San Francisco Cup. That's representing us this time. So yeah, that's the 2% right there.
Pam, what percent are you spending thinking about, utilization? Do you think anything about the monetary issues around the club?
Yes, the board's very focused on that, the financial well-being of the club, and I think it takes up 80% of our time in the boardroom. But we have a great finance committee, and they are incredible, and they dig deep into the finances, and they're very responsible, and they are stewards of the club. So they give us great input and feedback, and we trust them completely.
I just want to add one thing here, and that's relationships with the yacht club staff. I think that's a really critical issue, and it takes a lot of time. And we're all one big family. We need them, they need us, and communication with them early on is really important. So that's another big piece of it. Committees are important, but then the committee relationship with the staff is critical.
So, Paul, talk about the 50-foot GPS program that's going to be happening right out in front. Give everybody a little more detail about that. How many races, all that stuff.
I wish I knew more. We've been talking more about the logistics on this side of it. Tom, you want to answer that? I was giving Ron the 5-minute signal. Oh, because
so we're gonna how many boats?
There's 6 countries. I think it's all match racing, but there may be a fleet racing component before it. I'm not sure of that. That's why I hesitated. Does anybody know the answer? Okay, so I'm not alone. And the one thing I've seen in some of the news reports is there's sort of an absolute limit to the speed you can go hydrofoiling because of cavitation, which didn't make much sense to me because water is not boiling, which is what cavitation is. When the low pressure side of the foil goes too fast, it cavitates if the water boils, and then it loses its lift.
Air envelope.
Yeah, but that's not, yeah, but what's happening actually is that the nitrogen in the water is coming out of solution in the low pressure because of that 45 knot speed. And that creates bubbles, which means they lose lift and control. And so the AC, when the AC was here, they'd hit 45 knots and they'd get uncontrolled. Now I've read that they are now playing with the foil such and they can get up closer to 50. And so that design has improved their absolute top speed. It's kind of like the old sound barrier for airplanes. And the kites now, I mean, my son was clocked at 47 miles an hour, which is about 42 knots in races. And they notice...
How much breeze?
20, 25. And they notice when they hit like an outboard exhaust and they hit any bubbles in the water. They're not worried about waves on top of the water. They're worried about the exhaust bubbles in the water. And they'll actually sail through them quickly and get wobbly. So I expect they're going to be going very fast. They're going to be close together, relatively speaking, in time. Maybe not physically that close because of the velocities, but I think they will have stored energy. So unlike the New Zealand America's Cup boat last go around, where all the maneuvers were limited by whether or not they could get their hydraulic pressure up to adjust the wings and adjust the whole rig. These are going to be able to have some sort of energy source, batteries, driving their hydraulics and stuff so they can continuously sail the boat. And that's why they're 5 sailors and not 5 sailors and 5 bicyclists aboard.
We have a question from Jim Hancock, president of the Science Sailing Center. Jim.
All right, great to be here today. And Paul, this is maybe a little bit of a tough question, but you know, I'm really big on leadership, and of course you're a great leader, and we all know that sailing is one of the greatest activities for teaching leadership and life skills in general. And what plans does the club have to increase the outreach kind of beyond, you know, yachting has a reputation of being a little bit elitist, and how can we create outreach that reaches more people to bring them into this activity to improve our ability to teach leadership and life skills through this activity?
5 minutes?
1.
No, 1 minute. Jim, great question. I think all of us who love the water and love our toys on the water and love the science behind it have that challenge of reaching out to our friends and bringing them aboard. Treasure Island sailing is wonderful, and that's why the foundation supports it and the club supports it. And we really want to get beyond step 1 and 2 and to get your feet wet, but really get more people fully involved in it, in both sailing and maritime industries in general. I think your proposed museum will be wonderful to help do that and to reach a wider population. I apologize, I'm just giving platitudes here because it's all of our jobs to do that, to take what we love and share it, and then I think many more people will benefit.
I could add, I'm on the membership committee and I interview most of the juniors. And over the last 3 years, we've had 6 kids join that learned how to sail at Treasure Island Sailing Center. And I know it's really, really exciting. And I know down the road, Commodore Dana and Commodore Glidewell are really interested in putting together a junior leadership, flags and leaders, junior leaders of the club, and so the kids can get involved and learn the responsibility of leadership and club governance.
So, thank you for joining the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon live from the St. Francis Yacht Club. Our guests today have been Pam Healy, Olympic bronze medalist and director of the club, and Paul Heineken, Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club. Thanks very, very much. That's our time. Good. See the clock over there? See the clock? Yeah. And with that, the luncheon is adjourned. See my time?
Thanks, Cal.
It's interesting when you have multiple guests up here to go back and forth, back and forth. You guys were.